Hello guys, welcome to the first Makerscad tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to get Makerscad and how to make your first 3D model. So first thing first, let's go to makerscad.com and then you have two options. You can go to try this now, which will take you to the web version of Makerscad, which is a full version, or you can go to I want this, where you can download the installer for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So this time we're going to use the Makerscad desktop version, which should be the same as the web version. So first I'm going to explain you the windows that we have here. This first window here is going to be called the the programming window. Here's where we're going to drag and drop our blocks to create our 3D models. Then here we have the 3D view. Here we're going to be able to see what we're creating. And down here we're going to be able to see the code that we're creating, which is JavaScript. Specifically, we're using 3JS to create the 3D worlds in Makerscad. So every 3JS documentation should be able to use in Makerscad. So the first thing we want to do is to create a scene. Right now we have empty, we don't have anything. So we're going to go to scene here. Then we're going to drag and drop the new scene block. Second, we're going to add something to our scene. So for that we have a special block called the add block. It's right here. We're going to drop it here. And now we can click draw and we can see the cube that we created. We can play around with the shadows and you can see the wireframe here if you want to see through the objects that you're creating. You can have an axis, which is just this little gizmo that tells you which direction is X, Y, and Z. And finally, you can also see the grid, which is a 20 by 20 unit grid. If you export this, it will be in millimeters. So now that we were able to create our first 3D object, let's check what parameters it has. So as a box, we have three parameters. Here you can see add, it comes with a box, and we can change these parameters here to change the size of our box. When we click update, we will be able to, sorry, when we click draw, we will be able to see the updated settings of our box. Now, as you can see, this is a pale green color, this box here. That's because that's a placeholder we're meant to replace with a real part. So I'm gonna grab a real box from the parts menu box. And if you see, it's a little bit different. Now we can use these puzzle connectors here to plug it in the add. And as you see, when I replace it, it takes away the parameters. That's why I suggest you don't use the placeholders a lot. Usually try to get the real blocks here. So now following this, we're gonna, this advice, I'm gonna go to the list here and I'm gonna drag a list of XYZ here and I'm gonna plug it in here. Now this allows you to put different values for each and the segments comes with one. So for example, now I can change my parameters here and we should be able to see the new box that we created. So for example, if I need a 10 by 10 by 10 millimeter box, there we go. Now we have other parts we can play around with. Each one has different parameters. I encourage you to explore them. So I'm gonna throw away this little box here and let's bring a couple other parts to test. So we have a sphere here, which we can play with its diameter. Right, we can change the resolution. I'm gonna turn on the wireframe so it's more obvious. So I can go, for example, from 6, right, which makes a very blocky box, a low poly box, but then I can take it all the way to 60, which is gonna make a very smooth uh, sphere. Sorry, it's a sphere, not a box. So let's now grab a different part. We have a cylinder here. Now the cylinder has multiple parameters. We have the diameter 1, which is the top of the cylinder. We can put a 1, for example, or a 0 if we need a pyramid, and then leave the diameter 2 at 100 to make it thicker. Right now, the height we can make it 50. Right. Then if we want to make a pyramid, we only need to put 4 sides, and there we go. We got our pyramid. Like I said, we have many parts here you can test. The polygon requires an extrusion. We'll go to it in a bit. The spiral is a little bit complex. We won't cover it today. But two other cool extra blocks you can try are the 3D text. So you can put any text here that you need. You can change the size and the height, and you'll be able to write a couple things. For example, I can change the size to 20, and then there you go. We can make it thicker, right? And you're able to make some letters in Makerscad. Finally, we can use this load 3D object. So this is gonna prompt you to either put a link to a model online, or you can, if you already downloaded, you can click on load, go to downloads, and get any part that you already have on an STL. Then you'll be able to load that part in Makerscad. So if you have an STL or an OBJ 3D file, you can import it here. So now that we saw a little bit about the parts, I'm going to show you a special block. So I'm going to create my new scene again. I'm going to add something to my scene, and then the part that I want to show you is here in transform. Oh, sorry, it's not here. It's going to be in parts, the first part, a Boolean part. What that means is that we can start mixing shapes. For example, we add a Boolean part which is composed of two objects. In this case, it's a box, it's a placeholder box and a placeholder sphere, and it's going to create a subtraction between them. So if I click draw, we can see how it looks like. Now you can change it to union, which is going to be the mix of both. This is one object, it's not two objects anymore, it's one. And finally intersect, which we only see the part of each one that intersects with each other, and we see the result. With this, we can create many parts. This is what gives actually a lot of freedom to create 3D printer ready parts. So let's go ahead and try to make a keychain, right? So I'm gonna create a box here. Then I'm gonna give it a size. I already measured standard keychain, so we're gonna have it by 40 millimeters is gonna be our length. Then we're gonna have it a height of, let's say, 15 millimeters. That's 1.5 centimeters, and then let's make it 4 millimeters thick. Right now, I'm gonna actually just put the box by now, and I'm gonna take out the boolean here. So right now I'm just gonna see that body of our keychain. So now that I have it here, I'm gonna turn on the grid so I can see all the size. So the first thing, I want to add my name here. We can cut it out or we can add it to it. And second of all, I want to be able to put a hole here to put the keys, the keychain over there. So first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add multiple parts, and at the end I'm gonna mix them with this boolean part we just saw. So I'm gonna go and add a second object. In this case, I'm gonna grab the cylinder here. So this is a big cylinder, so I'm gonna make it much smaller. Let's say 4 by 4 millimeters. The height, we're gonna leave it at 10. Size 16 is fine. So that's our cylinder, right? So right now there are different objects. What I want to do now is I want to move this cylinder to this side so I can make the hole. So to do that, we need to use a transform. So I'm gonna go to transform here, is the third option, and then I'm gonna grab a translate. So the way this works is the translate expects two things. First is the amount, the vector that we're gonna move in each of the directions X, Y, and Z, and second, the object that is moving. So this first connector is for the vector, and the second is for the object that we're moving. So I'm gonna go and grab a list so we have more control over these inputs. So here you go. I grab the list here. I went to list and pick the second option, which is a vertical list. And then I'm gonna grab the object. In this case, I wanna move the cylinder that we already have. So I'm gonna grab it, plug it in on top of the box here. I'm gonna replace that box so it saves its parameters here. And now I'm gonna pick this translate and plug it in on the add block. So, all right. Now, why is it not moving? Because our movement right now, our translation, it's equal to 0. So I'm gonna turn on the wireframe and the axis. So actually I'm gonna turn off the grid for now. So I wanna move the cylinder on the X axis, right? It's the red one. So in this case, um, I can move it positive, this direction, or negative, which means this direction. So I'm gonna move it negative. I'm gonna put minus, and then if I know here it's 40, then I can say something like 15. That way we have a millimeter, right? So I like that. I'm gonna leave it like that. So now I'm gonna change this into a one part, the Boolean part. So I'm gonna grab a part, Boolean part. I'm gonna put it down here for a second, and then I'm gonna say grab my box, which is this box, put it on the first one, and then I wanna grab my translated cylinder. So I'm gonna grab it from the translation and put it down here, and then grab my Boolean block, which is one part now, and I'm gonna plug it in the first one. Now we don't need this anymore, so I'm gonna throw it away, and I'm gonna draw. There you go. We have the hole. So the final part is gonna be to add my name. So first thing, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna add it. We're gonna place it where we want and scale it or rotate it however we want, and then we're gonna mix them together. So I'm gonna go to scene add again. I just throw away one ad, but doesn't matter. I'm just gonna add a new one. Now I'm gonna go to parts, get a 3D text. I'm gonna say my name is Luigi, all caps, and size 10. I don't know how it looks like, so I'm just gonna wait and see how it looks like raw. So the size is a little too big maybe. So I'm gonna make it a little smaller, maybe a 7, and height, let's say 4. You know what? We're gonna cut it out. So let's make it 8 and drop. All right. So now all I have to do is place it in the middle, right? So remember what we need? We need a transform, translate. So I'm gonna grab this 3D text, put it on the object. I'm gonna grab a list, grab this one list here, and then I'm gonna put it in the add, replacing that box. All right, so let's start moving that box. So we want to move it negative x and a little bit negative y. So I don't know, I'm just gonna test a couple values. So probably minus 10. Let's see how that looks. And minus 3. All right, let's see the wireframe. Let's see. That's pretty good, I guess. So one more thing is it's almost ready. So let's go ahead and just mix them together. So this is a very cool feature. I'm gonna unzoom here, zoom out. So this very cool feature is that you can nest these Boolean parts. So right now we have two parts. The first part is this Boolean part, which is this box underneath with this cylinder cut off. And the second part is text with my name. So is this one, create this part. But now I'm gonna mix this one with this one. What I need to do is I need to grab a new Boolean part, and again, we take the first part, the Boolean, put it on top, and our second part, the translate. Finally, I put it on the add because we need to add it to the scene. So I'm gonna connect it to the add, and then I'm gonna throw this away because we're not using it anymore, and click draw. So if you see, it's cutting it away. Let's see, wireframe. There you go. So we can see it, it's working, but I want to cut all the way through. So what I need to do, I'm going to change this to add here. So I'm going to add the letters right now. They're going to be going up. So union. So what I want to make sure is that it crosses through. So I'm going to remember this vector here, minus 10, minus 3 to place the name. So what I'm going to do here is minus 5 here. Let's see that. All right, that cuts through. So I'm gonna replace it with a subtraction. Click draw. There we go. I like it. So finally, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to File, Save STL, save it. Yes, well, we can change any name. So let's change the name. I'm gonna call it name tag, and I'm gonna save it. All right. So there it is. We are ready to go to a 3D printing software. Let's go to Cura, and let's load it up, and we should be ready to make our 3D print. CUDA is loaded. Here it is. So the first thing is I'm gonna go here, File, Open File, and I'm gonna find my part. It should be on downloads. Let's see, it was name tag. There you go. We have our name tag inside there. So these settings are for the MM1 from MakerMix. So I'll just click Slice, and we should have our name tag ready. Now preview, I always like to check it. It looks like it's gonna print fine. This is connected, so I'll just save it to my SD card or send it to print. Alright guys, hope you like this first tutorial, and if you have any ideas for the next tutorial, just send me an email or leave a comment in the video. See you later. Bye.